Good afternoon. My name is Tom. The 29th of April at 5:15 in the afternoon. This is a meeting of the Finance Committee. I am chairman. To my left is Mr. Doug Tremblay, member of the committee, and to my right, Mr. John Swayzer, also a member of the committee. We have a couple items to come before Finance. Mrs. Knight, will you be?
Just to mention, there are two loan applications that have been recommended by the Small Business Development Revolving Loan Fund Loan Review Committee. $152,300 to Smith's Boathouse Restaurant LLC for 10 years, and $26,000 for Adventures on the Great Miami LLC for a 3-year period. We will be asking that these be emergency because both of the loan applicants are very anxious to close as soon as possible. But Mr. Dando, our development director, will provide you all the detailed information. He can kind of run down the highlights of the loans for you if you would like.
Which one would you like to start with?
Well, your pick.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
We'll start with the small one. The canoe rental business is Great Adventures. Adventures on the Great Miami. They are in operation, have been for several years in Bethel Township, and they propose to open a branch operation at Treasure Island Park with the new renovations that we've done. They are looking to have a $26,000 loan for 3 years. That will allow them to buy additional equipment that will be located at Treasure Island so that they can go back and forth between their two operations. The loan is set for 3 years because that's the amount of time they have on the lease that they did get approval from the Community Improvement Corporation, which had the lease from the city, of course. So that was approved the other day, so they're all set, ready to go. They've ordered some equipment already. They're really anxious to begin. So we do ask to expedite this loan. It's a business expansion, and it does fit the guidelines. We do have enough funds in the enough money in the fund right now, and it is within the appropriation.
Okay, let's go ahead and discuss that. I will say one thing. Mr. Jackson had, as part of this too, had already purchased 22 other boats himself. So he is putting some of his own funding into it also. So, Mr. Tremblay.
Everything was in the narrative that we got that I had questions about.
Okay. Mr. Swayzer.
Have the terms of the lease been discussed with Adventures of Great Miami?
Oh, yes. There was back and forth before they signed it. So they've signed the lease. That's in place. This loan now will facilitate getting the equipment to get the business running.
Do we know what the terms of that lease are here?
I believe there's a monthly rent that's set, and I don't recall the exact numbers, but the first year is an introductory rent, and then the succeeding years the rent goes up.
The introductory is $600 a month for 6 months, the first year, and it's $1,200 a month for 6 months then on. So
I think we did basically the same thing with Smith's also, didn't we?
Well,
okay.
It's right. There are some concessions up front. Right.
Okay. I have nothing else.
Nothing else. Anybody else in the audience?
Is this two pieces of legislation?
Yes, they're two separate loans.
So, John?
I'm good with it.
With
emergency.
Let's move forward with emergency.
Okay, let's go forward. Unanimous on
Okay,
that?
thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dando?
The second project's a little bigger because it involves putting a restaurant back in the Marina building, and that's quite a bit more expensive. The total project is expected to be about $300,000, and half of it would be facilitated by this loan. That is a 5-year lease that is in place. It was signed, and it has a 5-year renewal. So we have set this loan for a 10-year loan for payments would start after the first year. The first year would be a ramp-up period for the business where they would be establishing the business and getting it up and running. The loan principal would be $152,300 because that does include some closing cost fees. The repayment term is 10 years. There is a contingency clause that mirrors what was in their lease agreement. There's concern that a liquor license is unusual, liquor permit, excuse me, is unusual in this case because the building is a marina and there's a special class of liquor permit in Ohio for those. So we don't anticipate any problem, but of course, until it's actually issued, the restaurant operators wouldn't know if they would be able to operate the business as they propose. So in both the lease agreement and in the proposed loan, there would be a contingency clause that they would be able to recoup some of the funds that they had spent making improvements to the building, getting it ready for that permit. And that would be up to $49,900 as determined by the actual value of what was improved.
Okay. In the D5F, there's one permit allowed in Troy with that because we've got the one Marina building, and Tin Roof did have that, but they let it expire then and go back.
So to turn it into a Trex? Did it
No.
go to somebody else?
No.
No.
It can't.
Entirely different.
Because
So who owns the license now? Or the
State.
permit?
The state
Nobody
has it.
Yeah, the state has it.
it's an available permit.
Right.
But it can only come to us.
It can only come, it's for Troy for a marina facility. It has to fit that type of operation.
But
It
I mean,
can't be-
they can't, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but they can't sell it to somebody else. They can't sell it to Moraine or to,
Not that we're aware of.
okay.
It is only for this address, this marina location.
Yeah. So, but my point was, it is available, and there should be no issues with it. So, all right, Doug.
My questions were answered in the narrative.
Okay, John.
Do we know what the cost of that license is? Is that the $50,000 or the $49,900?
No, the 49.9, I believe, is related to improvements for the restaurant operation itself. I do not know, but I will see if I can look it up on the state's website and let you know later. I mean, they're not that
Curious
type.
where we came
that-
up with
that is.
$49,900.
It's on the order of a couple of $1,000s. And of course, you do hear from time to time that someone would buy a license from, or a permit, excuse me, from someone else for maybe $25,000 or $30,000. But those are the ones that are under quota. This is not under quota, so it's just the standard permit fee that the Ohio Liquor Control process has, which is a couple of thousand, if I remember reading the number correctly.
Would the 49.9 be related to a particular piece of equipment that may be permanently affixed?
The 49.9 number was arrived at based upon some of the equipment that would be custom made for this location, such as the kitchen hood for exhaust and the fire protection system that goes inside it. Once those are installed, they're pretty much part of the building. So the issue with the borrowers is that if they would reach that point and then have to not open the business because they were denied the license, they would have spent a lot of dollars getting those things built into the kitchen and have to walk away from them, which really wasn't, that's a risk that they weren't willing to take on. They're taking on quite a bit of risk, and certainly furnishings and some of the portable equipment that go in the kitchen, they could take that with them and use elsewhere or put on the market. But the hood and some of the plumbing and electrical changes to the kitchen layout, obviously you can't take those with you.
Are they bringing in specialty equipment? Because as I recall, when I walked through with Mr. Titterington a couple of months ago, there was range hoods in there. It was almost all ready to go as far as the kitchen was concerned.
That was set up for a very small kitchen. If you'll recall, the tin roof pretty much operated with a very small staff. What's being proposed here is a much larger restaurant operation, what's called a three-man cooking line. So the layout of the kitchen will be redone. The hood that was in use already, turns out that not only is it in the wrong place, because of being a much smaller kitchen layout, but it's also not the correct size for the type of equipment that this larger restaurant needs. So it'll be a larger hood, and it'll be in a different location.
Okay.
Part of the reason why the kitchen was not altered very much, most of the building was altered in many ways, but the kitchen itself wasn't changed very much at all, simply because of the question of, depending upon who would take over the business and put a restaurant in there, there would be a different layout depending upon what kind of restaurant it would be. So those were the unknowns that really needed to wait for an operator such as this with a real proposal.
And this is a question for a different time, but did we put a lot of money into that kitchen when we did all the renovations at that island? And it doesn't have to be answered tonight, but I mean, it's just...
I don't know the answer to that. I think some of it was put in by the previous operator, and of course, all the portable equipment went with the previous operator.
Okay. I haven't.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions? No?
No, I have no further questions.
No.
Oh, I just moved ahead with emergency.
Okay.
I'm good with emergency.
Okay.
All right,
Let's
thank
go
you.
forward, unanimous on that.
Thank you.
Anything else come before finance?
No,
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
thank you for meeting.